Good evening, everybody. This is the March 24th workshop of the Nottingham Conservation Commission. We have a quorum here. It's about 17 after 6, according to my watch. The clock on the wall is not working. Had a corroded battery in it.
I'm sure they appreciated that information. We could take up an election
Note to the file.
sprinkler purchase.
My name is Sam Demerit. I chair the Conservation Commission. To my left is Susan Mooney, who is the secretary. To my right is Liz Katowski, who is sitting in for Deb Kimball, I guess, who would normally be the vice chair. And we have Paul Meliotis, who will be sitting in for, I guess, Terry Bonser, unless Terry shows up. First on the agenda was items for meeting with the planning board in May.
And what I did is I put together a list of assignments or possible assignments for boards and committees in the community. Paul, I'm going to give you one. It comes from the back of the master plan update from 2012. And this is everybody in town, including zoning board and board of selectmen, just to have a working copy. And I gave Sam a short list of, excuse me, items that the planning board had started to consider in 2013. And I thought that we could quickly take a look at all of these items here to see if they have any cross-interest for us on the Conservation Commission.
And just to check on this again, that meeting, the joint meeting with the planning board will be on
May 25th.
Wednesday, May 25th at 7 p.m.
At 7
Correct.
p.m., that's correct. And I presented that to them last night at the meeting, and then Sam is following that up with a note.
Sure, no.
From us.
Okay. The first one on the list is NR for Natural Resources 1.8, which is to amend the Aquifer Conservation District to incorporate all stratified drift aquifers. Planning board had that down as an I, which I believe is immediate.
Yeah, it's on the, yeah, what they did is they took immediates and then short-term and ongoing.
Oh, yeah, okay,
And then they
yeah.
put that as ranking. Hold on, Sam, I haven't found one yet.
It's on the back side of the
First page,
first page.
1.8. Okay.
It's been quite a while since anybody's looked at the aquifers in town.
Yeah, that's going to be something quite involved.
Yeah. I think Mark West was involved with that when he was looking at
Critical wetlands.
yeah, critical wetlands and prime wetlands. He was trying to do prime wetlands, but because at that time we didn't have digitized maps, we could not do prime wetlands, so we dropped them down to critical.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, what do we have next?
The next is Natural Resource 5.3.
What was that last one?
The last one was on page 2
NR1?
in our 1.8.
1.8.
And that's under the objective of protect our water resources, including surface watersheds, shorelines, wetlands, floodplains, and aquifers.
Okay.
And then-
Next one?
And the next one is under objective 5, to maintain and protect the quality of Nottingham's scenic and dark sky environment. Page 3.
Oh, there. Yeah, it's on page.
That's 7.
Three.
What's your page? I think there's
3, isn't
Three.
it?
Okay, thanks.
The other side.
Find it. There we go.
Okay.
5.6, was it?
3.
3,
5.3, okay.
yeah, it's the steep slope ordinance for greater protection of scenic quality from the impact of development.
I think the planning board did look at that a couple of years ago, and they addressed it through steep slope for protecting the environment by making it a little bit more significant if people wanted to build or put driveways on slopes that exceeded a certain
Right.
degree. And that kind of died in committee. It went down by a vote of 3 to 4, whether or not to put this ordinance on the ballot for the following year at town meeting.
Okay, so,
And that might be something that we could re-look at and encourage the planning board to look at again.
okay,
Not only for safety reasons, but also for erosion
yeah. And running water into
Running water,
into the
yeah.
roadways.
and, yeah, decreasing the amount of permeable surfaces.
Okay, the next one was NR 5.5, which is amend the subdivision and site plan review regulations to include a statement to consider protection of scenic road qualities.
That's one we have not addressed on the planning board yet.
Okay, so,
Really, there's not much teeth in the scenic road designations of roads we have in town. It mainly addresses stone walls and whether or not trees are to be removed on those scenic roads, but it doesn't talk about certain things that we could put into the warrant or into our regs, including widening the roads, tarring the roads, other sorts of things.
okay.
They did widen the road substantially on Stevens Hill Road.
Yes, and they also did on
Yeah,
Rocky Hill,
yeah.
and that's
they-
got quite a slope to it.
Yeah, and they actually did it almost a third wider than it was, and they cut a lot of the trees that were, so it might make sense to try to raise those issues, because they have to get big equipment in there, and they make it wider.
Yeah.
So would you say that that really impacted the scenic quality of the road?
Yeah,
The
one of the
widening?
things is if a certain percentage of the trees are, big trees are
Yeah.
by the side and they're cut by the thing, then that cut will basically kill them in a short period of time. And so a pretty significant amount of
Become a
trees.
hazard, yeah.
Yeah. And actually, some of the trees went down in this last little one
Yeah,
because the winds, so it's,
it also widens the corridor of noise, so it widens the
Yeah.
corridor in which birds won't occupy
well,
because
it's,
they can't hear
it's
their
it's a
voices.
nice area right on the Quincy Pond too, so
Is that the scenic road?
yeah, that's,
Okay, I didn't
yeah,
remember.
I'm pretty sure it is. It's a dirt road too, and they'll be getting to the point where they may want to pave,
Yeah,
so,
better for maintenance, and that's what people like, but for the environment, it's not necessarily the way to go.
yeah, and the water quality, because it's,
Yeah,
Okay, the next
Yeah.
4 are on page 4. Land use 1.3, update the build-out study upon completing the implementation of a digitized tax mapping system in GIS database, which has been done, I believe.
what number is that, Sam?
LU 1.3, page 4.
Oh, okay, I'm out of sequence here. LU 1.3 on page 4.
Yeah, let's do the immediate ones first.
Yeah. There we go. So that was done with the last master plan. We've done a build-out study, and they've put in place a digitized tax mapping system. And they draw from the GIS database, don't they?
I believe
It's
so.
a done thing.
We just have to, just has to be updated then.
Yeah,
It shouldn't take, well, I don't know.
okay.
Okay, land use 2.1 on the same page, amend the open space development section of the zoning ordinance to make such development mandatory for subdivisions greater than 15 acres and provide a density bonus for providing more than the required open space set aside.
Mhm. The planning board did address that, and we had long discussions about the density bonus. And we decided that the open space development is a lot more attractive to developers anyway.
Oh, okay.
Because they don't have to put in all the infrastructure, the roads and everything else that they have, the standard 2-acre zoning. Nottingham is very concerned about impacts to the population and their impacts on the schools and services. And providing a density bonus to allow a developer to build more lots is kind of counterproductive.
Okay.
So we, on the planning board, decided to ditch that second bullet.
Okay.
And also discussion about making development mandatory for subdivisions greater than 15 acres. The conversation was, since we had open space option, all major subdivisions that have developed 15 acres or more, actually it's 20 acres or more, have gone to open space, and there was
Yeah.
really no need for this
Okay.
ordinance.
Okay.
Does this number stand at 15 though, or should that be 20?
Well, this is what came out of the master plan. The open space development is 20 acres minimum, because for management, nobody wants to take on the responsibility of a parcel smaller than 20 acres, unless it's really a very sensitive community. So
2.1.
2.1, so that one can really be dismissed.
Okay, land use 2.2 on the same page, amend the zoning ordinance to include a standard for maximum lot disturbance in the residential agricultural district.
That was addressed by the planning board at the same time as the steep slopes. And again, that did not go to voters by a 3-4, 3 in favor and 4 not in favor vote. That might, it'd be worth our while to take another look at that. Otherwise, developers can come out, clear cut a property, and then just plug houses in, after having removed all the trees and vegetation and moved dirt around and all of that stuff. So I'd like to recommend that we take another look at that.
Okay. Okay, land use 2.3, review subdivision and site plan review regulations to be sure that they reflect the need to protect rural character and that any development under these provisions minimize environmental impact. Did you look at that?
I would say that's gonna take a committee, and it's not gonna be a lot of fun.
Yeah. Question mark?
We just finished, the planning board just finished doing subdivision regulations. We haven't looked at site plan review yet. And it took at least 2, if not 3 years to do the subdivision regs. And I think with eyes on the particulars, I'm partially assured that this is okay, but maybe down the road we can take a look at that. Just sit and spend some quality time reading the regs.
Okay, and that was the immediate ones that they were looking
So
at.
these are all immediate.
Yeah.
How did these rank with the planning board?
Okay, 2.3 was, and 2.3 and 2.1 were both ones.
Okay, see, that's what they did then. Oh,
1.8 was the 2. Oh,
okay,
oh, they decided to work on those, but not that one, not the
Okay.
2.3. Even though,
okay.
oh, so you want these
Yeah,
rankings?
no,
instead?
I wasn't gonna put that, I was just curious, because I did
Okay.
not remember.
Okay,
So the 2.1 and the 2.3.
we're one, but they decided to.
Yeah, but they addressed that one.
Just the
Okay.
2.1.
Okay,
And the 2.2 and the 5.5 and the 5.3. Short term, yeah, 5.2, wherever that is.
Five point two?
Page
Yeah, it's on
three.
page 3.
Oh, it's back on page 3. Oh, okay. 5.2, amend the zoning ordinance to a skyline district to provide for greater protection of scenic quality from the impact of development. They had that as a number 10 and didn't work on it.
Yeah, yeah, okay.
And 5.4, they had it as number 6. Oh, review current scenic road designations and determine if additional roads in Nottingham should be classified as scenic roads consistent with New Hampshire RSA 231.
That probably could be piggybacked with 5.5, which is for immediate.
Yeah. Oh, okay. She's right there anyway, okay.
Did that get a ranking? 5.4
Yeah, it's a 6.
is a 6, okay.
Okay, next was T 1.4, transportation, something to do with roads. Oh, no, 1.1. 4.1, there we go.
Page 7.
Yeah, it's page 7.
Well, you're gonna be a pain. That last one was
The last one was
Five.
NR 5.4,
okay.
scenic road additions. And that was on page 3.
Okay.
Okay, T 1.4 is on page 7.
Yeah. I got that.
Establish a subcommittee of the planning board to investigate the need for seasonal road use policies to minimize the impact of heavy vehicular traffic and the use of heavy commercial trucks on Nottingham's roadways.
That was addressed. John Fernald was asked about this, and he says that he builds all roads so they can take heavy equipment. So that one's okay.
Okay. We don't have to.
You know, with all of the forestry products
Yeah.
business in Nottingham,
Yeah.
in the past, those roads are built to do that.
Next one on short term is 3.2. Update the site plan review standards to ensure that commercial development provides appropriate levels of landscaping and pedestrian walkways. And that was given a 9.
Yeah, I don't think that's conservation.
Oh, okay. All right, so we don't need that. And the ongoing one was LU 1.2. See, that was page 7.
think land use,
That's land use.
it's on page 4.
Second floor, okay. 7, 5, 4. Okay. Consider implementing a GIS that will incorporate and coordinate all community land-related data, both numerical and spatial, into a common system.
I don't think that's us either.
Hmm?
I don't think that's us either.
That's not us either, okay.
Although ideally, we would be able to use that system.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, once that gets put into place.
Okay, is there any, that was it, was it?
So of these, that was the list, right?
Yep, that was it, yeah.
We get back to page 1 here. Let's see, NR 1.8.
That's the aquifer.
Oh, yeah, that was the heavy-duty one.
Yeah.
Aquifer. And I also thought we could present the culvert design that Kristen had presented with her
Okay.
primer,
Okay.
Culvert Design 101, or that are more environmentally friendly.
Yeah.
That is recommended by New Hampshire Fish and Game for all developments and actually for all road work
Yeah.
in town. So if she's willing to do that, then that could be an item that we could
Okay.
discuss.
Okay.
Is that more transportation?
It's
No,
basically for passageways.
No, but I mean, would it fall under their transportation category, since you're dealing with roads, culverts under roads?
Yeah, I would say, but it's not addressed here. But it would be probably site plan review,
Mm-hmm.
that document in particular.
Okay.
So is this the short list that we want to talk about at the next meeting when there are more
Yeah.
people here?
I believe so.
Okay, so I'll try to make sense of these scribbles.
Okay. Okay. We done with that for now?
Yeah, unless there were anything
Any other?
else in the natural resources area that they did not
Okay.
take up, that we could encourage them to do. Is NR 1. Oh, we got that one, never mind.
I got the NR of 5.6 for the permitting process for outdoor lighting to preserve Nottingham's dark sky environment. That's on page 3.
On page 3.
Haven't looked at that. We haven't done any of the 4 point. Oh, those are.
That might be something to take a look at. Certainly noticed a dimming of the sky at night. Just have a policy of downward-facing lights and.
Yeah, and having them facing more on the signs than out into the roadways. I noticed a few that are, not necessarily in Nottingham, but some other places.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Let's see, okay, back to natural resources. We didn't do anything with Okay. Natural Resource 1.1, amend the Wetland Conservation Areas Overlay Ordinance. That was
What page is that? Page 2?
page 2.
Oh,
Oh, there's a bunch we haven't looked at there yet.
And I know we talked recently about 1.10,
Yeah.
trying to go
Prime wetlands.
yeah.
look at that again.
Yeah, that's under our
That's
Yeah.
our,
to-do list.
Is that anything we need to discuss with the planning board?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
No, I mean, that's one of our initiatives, that we can go forward with that.
and 1.2 is work with the local advisory committee of the Lamprey River Protection Program.
Yeah, that's us too.
Yeah.
And I think that floodplain management has to do with Stratford Regional Planning. And they've come in periodically to say this is how things are gonna go now, pretty much.
Yeah.
What about 1.7? Develop a townwide, this is planning board, develop a townwide water resource inventory and management plan consistent with RSA 4-C:22. That's something we can take a look at.
Stratford.
Then there's a soil stripping, 1.9. And that also has a backup, RSA 155:E.
Okay, and on the, I guess the natural resource 2.1 and 2.2 were,
Yeah, BOS and CC.
we're doing the VRAP and
Mm-hmm.
the PLIC is doing
Doing the other,
Doing
lake
the-
monitoring, yeah.
the VLAP.
That's ongoing, the
Yeah.
O's are ongoing,
Oh, okay,
so we don't have to address those.
okay. Natural resource 3 is what? All right, where'd that go? So this is,
But I think when we get more people at the next meeting,
Yeah.
maybe they'll have some additional
Yeah.
suggestions or.
okay, we do have the NR 6.1, which, let's see, it's us. It's on page 3. Establish conservation land protection and regulatory priorities based on the core conservation areas identified in the land conservation plan for New Hampshire's coastal watersheds and New Hampshire. Okay, where did that one go?
In areas of ecological interest
Yeah,
map.
oh, okay,
I think work on the Port General Screen map,
Yeah.
that baby.
yeah, okay.
But that's CC, it's not planning board.
Yeah, okay. Okay, so you're just looking at more of the planning ones that we would,
Yeah, for our meeting.
for the meeting, okay. That's ongoing, L is what, long term, right?
So at the next meeting, we can just generate a list of topics
Mhm.
and then get those sent to the planning board.
Okay. Anything else? We're all set
No, not
that?
on that.
Okay. Next on the agenda was the write-ups and photos for the website. And got a note that Deb Ames Kimball would rather be referred to as Deborah Kimball at this point.
Well, no,
Oh.
that was my thought.
Oh.
She said she's dropped the Ames,
Yeah.
and when I received an email from her at the last minute, I forgot to ask her.
Okay.
And that's something I can do when I get home.
Okay.
But on the web page for Conservation Commission, she's listed as Deb Ames Kimball. And I wonder if she preferred to be Deborah Kimball, which is her legal name.
No, okay.
Also, you're listed as chairman. Would we prefer chairperson?
Do that. That's fine.
Okay. And then should we list Deb as vice chairperson?
Sure.
And me as secretary?
Yep.
Okay. And the photo exhibit, photo section, Comte is spelled incorrectly. It's
Okay.
COMTE.
Right.
And I can do that. I can clarify
Okay.
with Deb if she's okay
Okay.
with that, and then I can contact Dawn
Okay.
and have her make those changes.
Okay.
I do have this blurb that I wrote up this afternoon for another, Paul, I'm gonna hand this to you.
That's the one that I sent you.
And I have a single.
Another
Yeah, I
version.
like yours, Liz. Thank you for doing that. Sometimes it just needs to sit and let someone else take a look. So I'm gonna read you Liz's. Yours didn't come, I don't get yellow highlight that comes through.
Oh, wait the pile that I gave you, those didn't come through
No,
with the yellow?
no, this is
Oh.
me. This is mine. But this is, I only made a single copy.
Right.
Did you give me
I
a pile?
I made you like 7 copies of that, and I thought
Oh.
they had the highlighting on them. They were clipped.
I
in
have
that
low water
same-
program.
That may be on the
There
back.
were, there was that, and there was a second one. Maybe it didn't come out with the highlighting, but there were 7 or 8 copies of
Uh-huh.
the one that I,
All I have is the copies that I had, because I had, Paper clipped it.
gotta be in the things that I handed you. I'm sorry. There were,
aha,
okay, and it did have the yellow,
we
okay.
were hiding like Easter eggs.
I just thought it would be easier for people to see it with the
Yeah.
highlighting. Because
Paul?
I moved things such as the information
Yes.
about who the 4 generals were.
Yeah.
to-
Yes.
Farther up, because people don't know, or they don't remember
Yeah.
all of them, so might as well. Okay, thanks.
So I guess I don't need to read it out loud unless, I don't think the audience needs to be bored. They can catch it on the
Yeah.
website.
I do have one question, though. I don't know that we need to have the apostrophe there after generals. You know what I mean? It's named after the 4 generals,
Rather
but
than
it's
they
not
own it.
owned by them.
That's a good point.
Yeah, okay.
Let's get rid of that.
So you could consider removing that.
Never thought of it that way. Pawtuckaway is known legally as Pawtuckaway Pond.
Right, but this is for the public.
Okay, never mind.
I feel like, nobody really calls it Pawtuckaway Pond.
It's kind of
even if-
pretentious.
Mhm.
I see 4 generals here and there, and I'll, down in the paragraph that's,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
in addition. And then also the 4 generals greenway encompasses 3 large blocks.
And then in the second to last paragraph, it's there again.
Yeah.
Yeah. I did do, because I checked the map,
Mhm.
and I have to redo that in addition. So, because the Cedar Waters and Cyrus and Langley Pond belong in the same block. I thought they were separate until I took a look at
Oh,
the
okay.
map. So it's going to read, In addition, 2 significant smaller blocks provide support and connectivity for the 4 Generals Greenway. These properties include the Quincy Pond parcel in the west part of town, along with the Cedar Waters area that overlies a large surface aquifer that extends, that's still in process, it extends to the Cyrus and Langley Pond area, all bound by,
Or you could put a paragraph there and then say, all of the
all bound.
latter are bounded by, I'm just thinking to break it into two paragraphs.
Oh, yeah.
2 sentences, maybe?
Period. This parcel is bounded by, the
Yeah.
second parcel,
I don't know, is parcel the correct term?
the second piece.
I mean, it's a block. We're talking about blocks, right? And
Rather
rather
than
than
distinct
individual
parcels.
owned parcels? And I,
Yeah, parcel, I think they think with individual pieces.
Well, in that sentence, Cyrus and Langley Pond parcel may be what they were signifying, and that it doesn't apply to all of them. See, it's connected without a, it's got a comma.
anyway, I'm sure you can wordsmith that a little,
Okay,
and so it says what
Yeah.
it needs to say there.
yeah, I'll rework this so
Yeah,
it
just maybe-
makes sense and it's accurate.
Maybe break it into 2 sentences so it's not so long. I thought that was great to include
Well,
something
should
about
I
the
re-
wildlife action plan there, trying to tie that in as
Yeah, oh,
well.
yeah, well, we've been kind of waiting on that.
Mm.
So for the parcels that are in the bullets,
Yeah,
should I Stevens Hill piece, Stevens Hill block, Stevens Hill area?
section area, I don't know what the, region,
I think they identify them usually as blocks.
Says Stevens Hill Mulligan parcel, so
I wasn't sure if the way I edited that paragraph was correct or not. Is Mulligan 2,000 or 3,000?
Mulligan's
it's
2,000 and
2,000,
change.
Okay.
The block itself in Nottingham is 3. The part that extends into Deerfield makes it over 4.
Yeah, maybe we could kind of mention that, because I think we want to be showing that the greenway extends beyond the town border.
Somewhere I thought I said that.
Well, yeah, and the block of parcel extends into Deerfield,
Oh,
Yeah, we
yeah,
could
it
say
says into
that.
Deerfield,
But maybe,
and then they kind of
since
go.
it doesn't just extend in, it actually is a pretty
Significant.
significant addition to that greenway.
And it extends into Deerfield,
And includes,
it includes another 1,000
the acres
acres or so.
Yeah. It'd be nice if we could have a map showing generally where the blocks are. I don't know if
Which is what
that's.
Four Generals will do. We did.
Yeah.
Well, we do. We have a natural resources, and we just kind of flapped our hands and said, well, it's here and here and here. But yeah,
Yeah, so the public can kind of get behind this. Do we want to say 3 large, that encompasses 3 large undeveloped blocks in Nottingham? Or
Open
special,
spaces.
special areas?
3 large,
it's really not undeveloped though.
unfragmented.
unfragmented. Yeah. They
Yeah,
don't
that's
have
a- that's
roads
a-
going through them. They've developed on the edges, in part. And fragmented areas. Okay, yeah, and that gives blocks a rest here. I'm gonna include acreage into Deerfield.
Now, the Kennard Hill parcel, that's pretty large too. If we can give a sense,
It is, it's
give a sense of how large that one is with the general acreage.
Well, I know just the Harvey property is around 1,100
Yeah.
acres, with, a couple hundred in Nottingham. And,
I don't have those figures at my
Yeah.
disposal.
I think I saw something on the Southeast Land Trust's
Something else,
website
might have
about
it.
that.
Yeah.
If I can find it, I'll send it to you.
Yeah, do that, Liz, and then what I'll do is that I'll tend to this early next week.
Yeah, it's not critical that it happen immediately.
Yeah, I get stuff lined up for the
I'll
for
bet
the
you do.
weekend, so. Yeah, that would be good,
Okay.
for total, area.
Do we want to mention anything in here about kind of partnering with, you know, Bear Paw and Selt?
The,
Or is that kind of a dirty word to,
no, we can do
to
that.
talk about
What I wanted
that,
to,
since this is really supposed to be fairly informal?
what I wanted to do is include the information for this referendum that was in 2006, that the
Yeah.
people passed, non-binding referendum. And
Is
then
that
I
okay
wa-
what I did there, where I put in the line that you had about participation would be voluntary and informal? You had
Yes.
that somewhere else, and I moved it into that bulleted list.
Yes, yeah, but
Okay.
that was also on some of those papers I pulled off my computer.
Okay,
But it was to reassure people that if they support this, they're not locking in a commitment.
Right.
You know, it's just a best
They-
practices
they
issue.
can choose to do that,
Yeah.
but they don't have to.
Right, and it's good for them and it's good for the community. And then I wanted to identify the big three pieces in Nottingham and show that connectivity is important, not only to connect the blocks within the town, but also to extend into neighboring communities. And then where we are at this point, the fish and game. And I wanted to get this on one page.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Sounds good.
On the north end of town, it's a pretty good-sized block, and most of it's in Barrington.
uh-huh. Do you want to send me some information on that, Sam? That would be the,
They include the Comte and the Bach
Comte
easement,
and the-
and the Bach easements,
yeah,
also the USA Springs property.
great.
But also the Stonehouse Pond area.
Yeah. If you send that along, that makes what we have in Nottingham more significant.
Yeah. And I'm not-
Contribution to those
I'm not
pieces.
sure what's over on the Epping border across from Tenenkos. I think there's some protected property there, but then, you know, that's.
In Lee, yeah.
Yeah, in Lee, but that's kind of cut short by the 125.
True. And to this, I don't think this needs to be comprehensive.
Yeah.
I don't think we need to
No.
include everything, just the big pieces that people would
Yeah.
recognize.
Well,
And I think the
I've-
details can come out later.
Yeah, I'm just
Yes.
thinking, that, you know, that they, you know, they see that there's something up to the north of us and.
Mhm. What
maybe-
happens to it, yeah.
Yeah, something to the east of us that we can tie
So th-
into.
So that can, those two can get a mention.
Yeah.
So, CEs in east and in north
Yeah.
part of Nottingham, connect two large protected areas.
And it's a big unfragmented block. I mean, there's a few, you know, roadways going into it, but,
Joel, I just say
but it
large,
is-
they're
it-
not
but,
protected?
Yeah, some of it's protected. I mean,
How about large open space areas?
yeah. Yeah,
In
the, still,
Lee
yeah.
and Barrington,
Mhm.
respectively, respectedly. I'll figure out which word I want. Okay.
Okay.
As it is, I dropped the font down to 11 size and changed it to Times New Roman that can pack in more words. So we'll see how it shakes out.
Okay. I'll try to get some.
Thank you, Liz.
Because I know
I love it.
Selt, I think, is working with the Stonehouse Pond area. leading locks up there, so I guess they hold the easement on that, and they're looking at another big block up there adjacent to the one they already have an easement on.
If you could get a feeling for acreage, that would be
Okay.
great.
Okay. Okay. Anything else on the?
Nope, I think that's good.
All set on
Gives me
that?
something to work with.
Okay, well water presentation at the library, March 30th. We're all pretty well set for presenters, and it'll be from 6:30 to 8 p.m. at the Blaisdell Memorial Library. We have 3 speakers coming in. Catherine Lawler from the Toxic Metals Superfund program at Dartmouth College, talking about her program is utilizing the well water toolkit. Lucio Baronelli, Water Analysis Labs, New Hampshire Department of Health and Human Services. His topic is testing your private well water. And Paul Suska, the Bureau of Drinking and Groundwater, New Hampshire DES, that's Department of Environmental Services. His topic is the need for private well testing and naturally occurring contaminants in wells.
These are 3 really outstanding speakers.
Yeah,
I'm impressed
yeah.
that you've set up such a wonderful program, Sue. That's great.
This is a program that he put together for, not Moultonborough, Tuftonborough, I think,
Mhm.
that is much like Nottingham. Everybody has a private well.
Mhm.
And he said that the interest generated by this program was outstanding. And they've been doing this service, distributing kits and then collecting them and transporting them to the state labs every year since this presentation 5 years ago. So,
Yeah.
yes.
In the blurb that we put together, I didn't pull out any specific contaminants.
Uh-huh.
I mean, arsenic is the big thing that they focus on.
Mhm.
And that's likely to be in a lot of people's water
Uh-huh. Oh, yes.
in Nottingham.
Yeah.
And I didn't know whether we should mention specific contaminants. I kind of took out the toxic
Yeah.
Superfund part of the first speaker's title, because I
Yeah.
didn't really want to
Scare people, yeah.
Um,
It's interesting that some people would pull back from information that could really help them remediate a problem. Yeah.
The toolkit itself is, do you have a copy of that? The toolkit? I have a PDF of that, the one that they use for that
No,
presentation,
I don't.
which I could send out to the commission members if people.
Yeah, that would be good.
But they would call our presentation an intervention,
Mhm.
which makes it sound like there's a known problem.
Yes.
And I don't want people to be scared by
No, this
those terms.
is outreach.
This is really outreach,
Yeah,
yes. And everybody who has a private well should be
Yeah.
testing regularly.
Yeah. I know that my husband and I had our well water tested last year, last fall, and everything came back great, but we have a surface well. It's only 18 feet deep.
Oh, really?
Now, as you go
That's
into
very
the
shallow.
bedrock, when you go into the bedrock, then issues can arise. Different issues can arise.
But you had no bacteria issues?
Well, we did, but it wasn't human coliform. It was some
Total
other.
coliform?
It was a total. And we just did a couple of shocks with bleach and took care of those babies. Until next time. So let's put together this flyer, which looks great.
Yeah.
It's pretty much your flyer, except I just added a couple things
She,
to it.
she fancied it up for me.
Yeah.
So this looks good.
But the,
I hesitate to put this because I'm not gonna be here this weekend, because I'm gonna be taking care of other issues across the state.
or we could just leave it
Leave it
off
blank.
completely.
Yeah, because the library has had that announcement on their on their
I know,
announcement
they've been
board.
publicizing that well, and
Yeah.
Karen Davidson as well.
Yeah. So this looks good. If you want to send that along to Karen and to Lou, and then I'll give you a list of places to post.
That would be great.
That would be great. And just leave that off.
Yep, sounds good.
Thank you, Liz. Refreshments.
Oh, yeah,
Oh, refreshments.
coordinate, are we doing that, or are we coordinating with the library?
I think we're doing that.
Okay.
I think I made a list of, somewhere. I have too many papers. Here we go.
So we need cups. Oh, did you make a list already?
Yeah, we just put people's names, like, I've got a picture at home which is really big, and I could just bring in some, or we could just fill them up.
Hmm.
So I put Sue down for a picture. I don't know if we want, cider too.
Can we still get like gallon jugs or half-gallon jugs of cider at the grocery store?
Yeah, they can get gallon jugs of cider. Just bring a gallon jug.
Yeah, I think
So
that
I
would be
can
good.
do, I can do cider and water pitcher. Go ahead, Sam, I'm sorry, I
Okay.
need to lean over and tell you what to do.
Okay.
I'm good at that.
And they're talking about cookies, cheese, fruit. If you want cheese, you want crackers with those, or,
Yeah,
okay. Okay, why don't I do the cheese and crackers? Since
you wanna write your name down,
Oh.
Sam? Sam, okay.
I'll bring some cut-up fruit. Is that on there? Is that an
Yep.
Yeah,
option?
fruit would be great.
Okay. So I'll bring strawberries and cut-up melon and things like
Yeah.
that, pineapple.
Whatever's available. Okay,
So we might need little plates
yeah, the little small,
and napkins and little
Okay.
forks and little glasses.
I'll check with,
They might have some stuff down at the library already, so I
Well, I
can,
should probably bring her around. Don't you think?
let me check, see what they have down there.
Okay.
yeah, I know I had a ton of stuff that I put in the kitchen.
I've got,
A while
I've got,
ago.
probably got cups I can bring.
Okay. I know I don't have much, but,
I'll tell you what, I'll get back to you after I get home. I'll go look
okay,
at our.
well, it's not until Wednesday.
Our supply. And
See if they think they need a tablecloth.
maybe I've got enough,
Try-
because
trying to-
I'm happy to get rid of anything that I have in our
It-
try to-
it
summer
tends to
stash drawer.
collect.
I'm trying to remember when they did the senior luncheon down there with the movie.
Or down
Well,
here the
yeah,
last time.
Yeah, in April, whether they had tablecloths on the tables or not.
Tablecloth is always nice.
Okay.
How about we have Deb do cookies? She wants an assignment.
Oh, okay.
Who else is
That should be,
coming?
that should be nice.
Maybe some brownies or something?
Cookies or brownies, whatever.
Cookies or brownies.
Just wondering if there's anybody else who doesn't have a job yet.
You know who likes to bake for these things is Elaine Schmutlak. Tell anybody no.
I'll let you approach her on that
All
one.
right.
She probably won't say no to you,
Elaine. Cookies.
but you're right, she does. And
Paperware, we'll
Peg
get back
Tucker
to
as
each
well.
other.
Yeah.
Sam, Liz. The tablecloth.
Do you know if this is in the forum?
I
I'll take a
do-
look if you
Yeah.
don't.
Probably
you could
wasn't
just-
in the last one that was published, before election.
Yeah, but they have a daily one
Oh.
they just move articles in and out of it, which is online, rather than this week's issue of the Forum. There's one that's continually updated.
Yeah, I'll take a look and get back
Okay.
to you.
Yeah, I didn't get specific information on the presentations until about 2 days ago
I know.
from Lou.
I know. Well, you've really hustled on this.
Takes a little nudge.
Yes.
Nudge.
So I'd probably need enough for about 50 people or so.
I would say,
Yeah, okay. Can we get,
you know, not everybody noshes, though.
we don't.
No. Some people do graze. Nobody that I know, but other people don't.
Okay. Okay, where are we down now? Next on the list is habitat inventory.
What?
Yeah, habitat.
Oh, that's Paul, yes.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, at the last meeting, we sort of discussed a new acquisition.
Have you seen this, Paul? It's the vernal pool study for the Tenenco property.
Yeah, actually, I did see it because
Oh.
John showed it to me
okay.
after the snowshoe walk.
Oh,
Did Bark West do that?
Yeah.
Yeah, and
with that
it's
and the-
it's some photos and estimates he had of spotted salamander, and this is good because this is, you know, data that you can sort of say, well, we have this information. So I think I was wanting to look at the area to see what else was in there, and I know Celia Abrams has looked at a lot of the plants, but we did talk a little bit about the fact that, you know, as it gets more open, there's a pretty big flock of turkeys in there, and there's a lot of sort of compression because of the development. So I suggested that I wanted to look at it, and that there may be, in the really nice parts of it that had black gum swamp, that was good. So that's when I wrote the thing to Susan, because I missed the last, this was at the last meeting we talked about.
Yeah,
But I don't know, my idea was that if CELT is going ahead with the,
yeah, they may be doing some
yeah,
inventory work.
yeah, so
At
that's,
Tenenco?
that was
Yeah.
my question, whether they had information, they had this information,
Yeah.
but I don't know if they had other information that would indicate. And when we went to the, I don't know what, I missed the meeting that everybody discussed the wildlife action plan, but we did get this data. It said species of greatest conservation need, and as I looked through this list, I found that many of these things that are on this species of greatest conservation need, which is pretty much focused on the mammals. And in the bird part of it, a lot of the ones that they list as in need of conservation are actually here, and they're in a lot of the conservation tracts. But some of them are not, you know, they have a limited amount of data. So I went and looked at the Biodiversity of New Hampshire Natural Heritage Program, and they have a separate areas for rare plants and plant communities, and rare wildlife and frequently asked questions. And it seems to me that even though this list is of what's declining, that a very large majority of these things are declining throughout the rest of the state. So we have areas that still have very successful breeding colonies, and the loon is one of them. But there are a lot of other songbirds, scarlet tanager, and things that are much more successfully breeding. So I had the idea that maybe we could look for them. And at that last meeting, I suggested that cerulean warbler, which I believe is on this list, is only known from one place in the state, and that's Pawtuckaway. And so these black gum swamps may well have that. It's just that no one's ever looked in those areas. And I'm sure Mark, when he went in and documented this, had some pretty good data for the reptiles and amphibians and some of those ones that we knew about, but I don't think there is any data from what,
On the birds.
on the birds that are breeding.
Yeah.
And Mulligan, which I have data for about a year and a half, is about 136 species in that one area. And many of those, I have data that indicates that not only are they there, they're successfully breeding every year because the habitat is high-quality habitat. So my idea was that the Fernald property, which abuts that,
Exactly, yeah.
is a new acquisition.
Yep.
And the Society for the Protection of New Hampshire Forests had a report that Howes gave to the Conservation Commission, and in that, he measured a lot of the black gum swamps that are in there, the trees. And that, I think, seemed to me the best place to start. It was a new acquisition. It protects that side of Pawtuckaway. It still has a lot of that good quality habitat and forest. So I thought if I went in there in May and June and found some of these things in there, we could sort of make a case for, well, this is a sensitive area and we'd like to err on the side of protecting it as much as possible. And if you have a lot of people in there, they may not know what's in there. And when I went back to the biodiversity site, I found that they seem to be starting to collect data, but I don't think they have complete data, and that went to what Kristen Lamb said about the fact that it would not hurt us to collect data, these rare reptiles and amphibians, the black racer and the blandings and that. And what it said in Protecting Biodiversity in New Hampshire, it said in 1998, the New Hampshire Ecological Reserve System project concluded, though conservation lands comprise approximately 20% of the land area in New Hampshire, the current system of conservation lands in New Hampshire, this is on the website too, so you can, does not appear to provide comprehensive long-term protection of biodiversity at the species, natural community, or landscape levels. And that's from the New Hampshire Ecological Reserve System project. And that is suggesting that they're trying to collect this information, but they're only really in the beginning. And in other states nearby, the Heritage Program, which originally was initiated by the Nature Conservancy, collected this data for the state, and then they expanded the program into the other New England states. And most of that data came from either specialists or people that were volunteers, like Celia, and they actually knew better what was in there because they had invested the time. And there is no real comprehensive inventory for Pawtuckaway. And you would think that because it was so unique, but who's going to provide that? And so volunteer efforts with somebody that has familiarity was my idea, and I thought if the Conservation Commission thought this was a good place to start, we could collect this information, and it would give us, it would give CELT and the Conservation Commission feedback as to, okay, this is what we're doing, and there are some things in here we didn't know about, and so it's an even better thing that this land is under our protection. And in some cases, we may not be able to protect it, but it's good to have some information. And we could provide this to the Heritage thing and hopefully work with them a little more closely But as it is now, if we ask them, well, what's in there that's unique, they really are not going to tell us. So maybe
Or they might even say, this is a good place for them, but we don't have any records of this.
that's probably what they're going to say.
Yeah.
But even if
And
they
we
have
hear
records,
that-
would they tell us?
In some cases, they don't because of the fact that people collect plants and put them in their thing. But most of what they have done is very strong in plants, because plants stay there.
Right.
But with things like migratory birds that go to Ecuador and then come back for a limited season that are shy, even the Fish and Game really doesn't have good information. And this list that they have, actually, there are some things on here that probably aren't that rare, and there are some things that aren't on it. So I just thought, well, if we could find cerulean warblers and possibly other uncommon or rare species, that this would be a good outreach to the Heritage Program. And the overseer of this is basically the Agricultural Extension. They sort of try to collect this information, and they have New Hampshire Audubon. And I know Deb Kimball mentioned that that New Hampshire Audubon is the assessor for birds in that area, but they don't have anyone that's going to go in there in May and June and do the field work. They went on the initial Lauren Crass, I believe, when they did that original walkthrough. But, you know, they just look at the area and say, oh yeah, it's a nice area, but they don't have the staff or the whatever. So I just thought it would be worth a try to go in there in May, and I talked to John Turnenko, and he was thinking, yeah, but that was before, he was thinking that would be good, but that was before he went to South. So my idea was to maybe start with,
Start with the vernal property.
yeah, start with
Start
the
with
vernal
vernal?
property and
Okay.
see if
Okay.
the Conservation Commission is willing to undertake it as just trying to collect information and provide the information to the Conservation Commission and the Heritage Program, and see what they think, whether they want to keep that data in their data banks as a way of monitoring
Yeah.
a species that is rare and declining. And there may be cases of where, when one side of the vernal property is developed, or the Turnenko property, that species will be affected, and we will at least have what they call baseline data. Because you can't really you can't say something's changed if you don't have the
Have a baseline.
baseline.
I don't know what it is to begin with.
So that was my idea, but I thought that it would be best if the Conservation Commission members, who Celia and Deb Kimball and
Sharon?
yeah, could really sort of bounce this around a little bit and see if they really thought it was worthwhile. And if you decided to try to do that, if you thought it was a good idea, I might then go to Society for the Protection of New Hampshire Forest and say, we're trying to do this, and we'd like to sort of compare notes about what some of the information on trees and the vernal pools, and then put it in a collective sort of, and New Hampshire Audubon does very similar things with, and if you can interact, then when something comes up, then they're more aware of what's in there. But I think it's just the thing I wanted to try, and it would require, I think the best thing would be to put together, when these things come in, they come into an area with really big trees, and they're very hard to find.
They're very high up in the
And
canopy.
they're high up in the canopy generally, and the way you track them is you know the song, and you know the songs of the other things that sound like it, and you go in there, and if you hear it, you try to document it and photograph it, and then you monitor them, but you're not going to be able to monitor them unless you know they often have a specific area that they come back to every year. And once they stop singing and the female lays eggs,
Why does
your chances of finding them,
Yeah.
I mean, the other biologists that I've talked to, how many golden-winged warblers have you ever seen a nest? None of them has ever seen a nest, so they're not likely to spend a lot of time and energy looking for something that, you know, it's out of the. Now, with loon nests, it's a little different. You got something to work on, and they're large enough to protect them, but,
By the way, I'm
Yeah.
just going to interject this.
yeah,
The loons normally come back to Pawtuckaway about between the 10th and the 14th of April.
right.
They are back as of today,
Oh, wow,
which is the earliest in the 10 years that I've been on the list.
wow.
And that fits with all the other data, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it fits with all the other data for New Hampshire Audubon, is that,
Yeah, we had frogs croaking before the cold snap,
Oh,
before the
yeah,
snow.
I heard them in Raymond.
And that is really early.
both
The
peepers and
clappers.
wood frogs.
Yeah.
And this is, like, this is as early as I've ever
Yeah.
heard wood frogs.
Peepers in Exeter, I heard.
Right. So I just think,
Raymond.
I just think it's an idea that really needs to throw out there and see what the other members of the commission think about it. And I don't know whether at the next meeting we could rediscuss it, but I just wanted to see if you had any idea as to what you thought about it. The question of the Ternenko property seems to be, I don't know if there's enough time, because it is very, it's pretty time intensive to monitor. And even if we don't find cerulean warbler, we're gonna find a lot of other birds that are on this list that are breeding successfully. I know tanagers and several of the warblers are in there, and so I was thinking that's a good place to start. And early May to mid-May is when they come in, and at that time, everything else in the world is in too. So you've just got to sit there for and listen for a day, walk around, try it at different times of the day, and then just monitor it for a week or two and see if you can, what you can find.
Paul, I'm a little confused as to whether you think the effort should be put into the Ternenko property this spring, or Fernald, or both.
I think the Ternenko property is now on track, at least, as far as Southeast Land Trust coming up and this other easement. So I think if we find the data in there, it would make sense, because it seems like they are where the aquifers are. The conditions that produce the kind of forest and vegetation, that's where they are. And my other idea is that when you make a trail, you might want to keep the trail out of those sensitive areas, because people go in there and, you know, disturb it. And the fact that he wanted to name it Pawtuckaway Woods, it would sort of be that we were supporting the, and the town has supported that. So maybe it would help us get a little better outreach to people that are interested in conservation.
Yeah.
Maybe even other members that, you know, people that may want to get on the commission. If they can do something that's fun, field work is, a lot of people work in the conservation area and they work in the Fish and Wildlife Office, but what they really like to do is go out and run around and look for things and learn new things. So there's a lot of young students now coming on, and I noticed Crystal was pretty interested in plants on the thing,
Yeah.
so it would be, and Mark is obviously doing some
He's a
of
good resource, yeah.
So,
Maybe we should have a couple of high school students for community service work with you, Paul, on learning how to identify.
Yeah,
Birds and-
it's, there's now, you know, DVDs and CDs where you can put them in and learn about it. It takes someone that can hear high frequencies, and so younger people are better. The only thing is that it's very hard because of the disturbance factor. And part of the thing is you go in very slowly, you don't move fast. If you hear something, you don't, you just sort of wait, because the faster you move towards it, they just disappear. Their eyes and senses are better than ours. So as a project, almost all of the projects like this have one person and then a trainee, so that the second year or the third year, that student might be looking at the Ternenko property or other big aquifers. But I'm thinking that if we could even start it and then look at Pawtuckaway to see if there's a pocket of habitat in there that is likely where they are. And I have seen them in there, and they're in the
What part did you see them in?
well, here again is the whole thing, is that parts of the steep slopes that are near watersheds and parts of the territory are where those black gums are. So that's what makes me think that
Yeah.
they're going to be in those areas, which is where I have found them in the past. And they're in big river bottoms, but most of the area around the lamprey is not really suitable habitat.
Yes, supportive.
Yeah, and much of the habitat that's along the bigger rivers is not, you know, you get in and clear a part of it, and so maybe they're declining because there's not as much habitat for them, and it's not known. Even the Fish and Wildlife that is suggesting that this is species of greatest concern, but they don't have all that much data, and it's not easy to collect it, and usually what you get is a PhD thesis that's willing, somebody that's willing to spend 3 years, like that
Yeah.
PhD thesis that we went to with the sharptails. And so that's what I'm thinking, is that maybe a student would be somebody that's at UNH, and there are UNH students that are in the program, and but the agricultural extension has a separate, you know, those people that, and I don't know if you heard all of that, but the
Coverage program?
the presentation for the Wildlife Action Plan that we went to, the 3 people that were there, and I talked to one of them who's organizing data on some of the rare aquatic dragonflies, and she was interested in finding out what kind of data that we had. So, I mean, I think that's making them in the loop would be good. And I know you wrote that. Email to. Her name changed, right? Because I remember her.
I'm not pulling it up, Paul.
The email that you wrote and said Kristen suggested that they,
Oh, the gal that I contacted this afternoon.
Emma, and
Emma.
it used to be Cargano,
Tutein.
Tutane, yeah, I think she got married. She was at the presentation.
Yeah.
She was one of the presenters. But I remember her as Emma Cargano. And she does a lot of work with Southeast Land Trust. And they also work with Bear Paw. And so most of the land trusts are getting their information from the Heritage Program or Agricultural Extension, and there's also Matt Tarr. So, but they're working on projects, and they don't always have time to do that kind of, because he's got a bunch of banding projects too, so, I'm just thinking maybe if the commission thinks this is a good idea, that then we'd go to Southeast Land, we'd go to
Forest Society.
Forest Society first, and then go to Extension and say, here's what we're trying to do. How did you collect, or how can you document this information that's here? And,
I think it sounds like a great program. You know, we've always been data starved in Nottingham,
yeah,
and that's really what pushes for conservation. If you can say, yes, we have these species in here,
yeah.
and we need to rigorously,
Yeah, and they're willing to support it if you can prove, like I know they did the black racer survey. They had sites where they would put transmitters on these things, and they were willing to, invest somebody that had an advanced degree, and they'd go around and put this energy in, so, but they wouldn't put that energy in until somebody said, okay, there's a colony over here, and so that's why I was thinking, maybe that's a good place to start.
so are you recommending cerulean warbler because they are
Globally endangered
a species that, what's the word, where it's kind of like,
Threatened?
no, like a canary in a mine.
Yeah, it's an
The
indicator
keystone
species.
Oh, indicator.
Indicator species, that's the one.
They-
Is it an indicator species of a,
It's an indicator
Habitat.
species of primary habitat, and basically, the same is true of a lot of these extinct birds like ivory-bill woodpecker. They were in the big bottomland forests with big tupelo trees, and that kind of forest was chopped very, very early. Some of the tupelo trees were left because they weren't commercial. But, they talk about big tulip trees, that were bigger than the black gums.
didn't
but-
they only eat 2 species of beetle?
Yeah, they ate, and this is the other thing, that it may be that cerulean warblers are successful in really beautiful type forest because there's a lot of caterpillars, and so.
Well, I would say, Paul, I don't know, everybody at the table here tonight is enthusiastic about this project. Would
Well, if you-
encourage you to
If you
take the
want to
initiative. and-
go ahead and vote on it and just say, okay, we think this is a good idea, then we'll put it on the next agenda for the next meeting if
Okay.
people want to rediscuss anything, and I can try to answer it, but I can also start to prepare. See, my knee now has messed this up a little, but I can still get in there and just sit and move around slowly, which might actually help, I don't know, but.
I think we're so fortunate to have you on the Conservation Commission with your expertise. So if this is something that you can really make a major contribution on, which I see.
Yeah, I'd like to do it
And-
because I think there's a number of other things that are in this ecosystem that are really not on their radar. I mean, they're partially on the radar, and they're things that we think of that they used to be fairly common, and they're things like American woodcock,
Oh, yeah.
which nest in those same areas, and black-billed cuckoo. It's, again, you don't see that many. Canada warbler, cerulean warbler. I'm going to go through quickly. Some of them, a lot of these are birds that are game birds too, like ruffed grouse. Ruffed grouse is disappearing incredibly rapidly because they need that kind of rich forest.
I
And,
keep hearing that the wild turkeys are shutting out their,
yeah, they are. And I mean,
Outcompeting?
Celia,
outcompeting them, yes.
Celia, the habitat is not capable of supporting a flock of 50 or 100 birds, which John Turnenko has, because they're going through there and they're eating everything. They're like
Right.
deer.
Oh, all those turkeys out there, yeah.
Yeah, and they eat everything. They just turn up the whole leaf litter. I mean, it's like a huge flock of giant chickens have gone through there. So that's actually over to continue on, veery and a lot of these
Oh, yeah.
thrushes, wood thrush, these are all declining throughout.
Yeah, I don't hear wood thrush very much at all.
Yeah,
around
but
here.
there's more,
Do you have them?
And the
Yeah.
berries too, yeah.
yeah, and there are more in there, in Mulligan and Pawtuckaway, than there is in almost any other place, because it's a healthy.
Large
So,
area.
we could supplement the idea that we're protecting something that encloses a larger number of species. And partially it's because we have 3,000 acre tract or 2,000 acre, because they can't really, scarlet tanager is a perfect example. I mean, they can be in there singing, but they won't really build a nest unless they've got a good sized chunk, because they've got female's gonna hatch the eggs, the male's gonna feed her, and he's using a larger area. So Pawtuckaway is ideal. It's got water, lake edge, it's got stream going in, so they're pretty happy there. And we know that in Ecuador, the vast amount of the cutting that's going on there as these places develop they go up in the Andes to winter, and they've got to make this, so it would seem that we here in New Hampshire think, oh, wow, scarlet tanagers, but when you really consider what's been studied about the fact they've got to make this, that they're really not able to find enough food. And scarlet tanagers and vireos and warblers, neotropical migrants, the ones that are breeding north of us, and they have to come back through. So as they go back down the east coast of the United States, what they run into is megalopolis.
Yeah.
And so even the migratory ones will, and the black-billed cuckoos and all those things, they'll come through Pawtuckaway and they'll stay there 3 or 4 days a week and eat as much as they can to make the rest of that jump.
Fascinating.
Because when they start to jump and get to Florida and Mexico,
There's no
there's not a lot of places you can stop.
golf courses, and that's it.
So, I just went to a talk at Harvard, at the Nuttall Ornithological Club, and the world expert on swallowtail kite came and gave a program to the department there. And he had an enormous amount of data that he's got grants from the Fish and Wildlife to do this, and they're monitoring by helicopters, but big black gum swamps along the rivers, and all these areas are being developed for strawberries and people, and so they're starting to see all of this pattern. And it's going to affect a lot of wildlife, and wildlife corridors are a good place to start, but if we can start to, and I think there's the other thing of teaching kids about fun in the outdoors, and here's what you can learn, because by the time they get ready to make a decision what they want to do with themselves, they'll have a start.
Yeah,
And,
of exposure.
yeah, and let's just see if it will develop rapport with townspeople who might be much more willing to support. I know they were able to successfully raise the money for Fernal Woods. And a lot of towns, people just don't, but Nottingham seems to like the idea of this protected little,
Woods.
yeah. So,
Anything you want to write up about that, Steve Soroff at
Yeah.
the forum would be happy to take it and have articles in there about this. That
Well,
would be
I-
of personal interest to him, but also of great interest to people in the area. And that's one possible place where.
yeah, I think
That's a
it's,
good
I
suggestion.
think it's hard for
Yeah.
town people, but my theory about this is that smaller is better, but I could do a single thing short And you could submit it, or when you submit yours, and just say, this is a new project that we're trying to do, and keep it really simple and see if we get a response.
Well, that brings up something, going back to the website, where I thought we should have something on our menu of offerings that is projects, you know, projects of the Conservation Commission. And one would be the water well testing program, and another could be the biodiversity species monitoring for selected species to show
Well, yeah, it's a good,
what's
it's a
there.
good place to start.
And somebody might read that and go, oh, that's really cool. I would like,
But it's also like picking up trash. It's also water testing on the rivers in the summer.
yeah, there's a lot that this commission does.
Yeah.
And I think that that should be highlighted,
Yeah.
and that might bring in more people to volunteer
Assist.
or participate.
Have it right on the website.
I think people
Yeah,
are a
put it
little
right there. The
overwhelmed.
projects, I think, will interest
No.
folks a lot.
Bring that up at the next meeting, Liz.
Yeah.
Okay, we can't vote on it now.
Well, we
Oh,
could.
good.
And,
I think we need some more people to step up.
and I think it's good that you have new people coming in too, because I think you need different disciplines coming in. I mean, somebody's interested in fish, or somebody is interested in mammals, and then, you know, somebody like Celia is kind of unique because there's not that many really good botanists and go out there and really, and like to do that kind of thing. So my idea is it's great, but we got to get some new people in, and
Are you looking for us to vote tonight to encourage you to go ahead and do that?
I think it's,
And-
you know,
and
if
pursue the,
it's a
vernal
good start to just sort of, and then suggest that we want to make sure that everybody
Everybody else is on
hears
Put it on the
here's why
agenda for
we
next time,
put
just
it
to
on the
discuss.
agenda, just to kind of make sure that we're not doing something that everybody isn't, because this is a busy time of year.
Well, why don't we vote next time then?
It's up to you. I mean, you can do it either way. It's
What do you
up to
think?
Well, I
Vote
think-
tonight?
Well, we can
Yeah,
do both too.
Yeah,
I
we
mean, it
can
doesn't.
do both, and then bring it up again and make.
And then
make sure
bring it
that-
up and make sure that we didn't exclude
Step on
comments.
anybody's toes.
No, I'm sure
Okay,
that
well,
we
I
can still
still
accept
move
input.
that Paul pursues the inventory for indicator species on the vernal property.
Yeah, maybe
On
indicator
Deerfield Road.
species and neotropical
Indicators,
neotropical migrants, and see if that,
neotropical
because
migrants.
that, most of what we do, we don't, it's kind of hard for people to say indicator species because they think of moose or,
Okay,
So are you just thinking birds at this point when you?
actually, I was thinking if I'm gonna be in there anyway, I would
the
collect a
reptiles and
general
amphibians
list, yeah, because
as well?
that's not as difficult. And he's already recorded some of the same things in there. But I would like to look at aquatic insects, because I think that's the, I think the,
aquatic insects.
yeah. New Hampshire Audubon had a big program where they started sending volunteers out, and they got grant money, and they got, so they put it in a computer program and then started generating all this data. And so some of the data that's on that came from that program, which was 2 years ago and then this past year. So I was thinking, well, okay, I don't know if I have to go back and get that data, but I have a feeling that when you collect the data for Nottingham, it will be the same high, because you've got a small fast stream that has trout in it, you've got a lake, you've got a swamp or a bog that has this sphagnum type. So when you sort of put it all together, then you see, oh wow, we've got
A lot of diversity.
a lot of diversity. And the other thing that it ties in is that the animals that are migrating to Ecuador and coming back here come back at a time when all of this food is coming out of the water, like mayflies and dragonflies, in huge amounts. And what that gives them is a boost. It gives them high-fat protein food that they can feed not just the male and the female, but the babies too. So they go back to that place because there's this big peak. So in a way, if you change the water quality or the water movement, diversity falls off. And that negatively impacts them, and they don't have a successful breeding season. And so they come back, they go to Ecuador and come back, but that year they weren't able to crank anything out, and you don't know until
They disappear.
3 or 4 years, and they're just, the numbers are so small, then you stop seeing them and you don't. So it's tied. And Wilson's idea of biodiversity, which you quoted, was, you know, I worked with a lot of those biodiversity get-togethers that they did. And the idea was that this is this huge thing. There was a recent thing on the thing saying that we still don't even understand how many species are in this whole, and the Smoky Mountain National Park that they talked about, it went into the 20,000s of species, and that didn't include numbers, individuals, but millions of individuals come out, and it's all part of this huge.
Well, I know that he had a change of vision
Yes.
a number of years ago, where he had his favorite species. And then when he started to work for Smithsonian, he realized that it was the habitats that needed to be preserved.
That's right.
Because
Yeah.
everything's connected to everything else.
Yeah.
And you can't protect one species, you have to protect where they live.
Yeah.
And just
That's
provide
the
for them
Nature
in that way.
Conservancy has focused on.
Yeah, and they've gotten into, and here's the thing about all these organizations, as they start to get, you know, they host Wilson and they talk over what are we gonna, you know, and what they do is traditionally they come into a place and they say, oh, this unique pitch pine habitat, we're gonna manage this by fire, and they get somebody that gives them a large enough piece, 2,000 acres, whatever, as they have done in southern Maine. And now they've got a kind of a showpiece, and they use that to sort of document this, but they can't go on like that forever. They go on to a bigger canvas now. They're worldwide, like the World Wildlife Fund. So they're racing over to Africa, they're over here, getting these big chunks of property. And biodiversity is
Under your feet.
is right here, and as Wilson indicated in
Yeah, it's
his
right here.
latest book, we still don't know what's here. I mean, when I started doing this in Dunstable, Massachusetts, everybody assumed that we knew every species that was in New England. But I found a new species of spider that had never been found in the state before. It was undescribed. And I was looking at a broadwing hawk nest, and this little green spider came down off the canopy, and it was like, so I looked at it and put it in a little jar, and I had done a lot of keying out insects, but it wouldn't key out in the spiders of Connecticut, so I put it in the refrigerator to kind of cool it down, and the world expert on spiders was Herb and Lorna Levy at Harvard then. He wrote that little golden guide. So he lived in Carlisle, so I called him up and I said, you know, I got this spider. He said, what color? And I told him, and he said, what kind? I said, it's an Arrhenius. And he said, it's all green in an Arrhenius? And I'm thinking, you know, this
Those
is
are
the
those
world.
orb weavers, right?
Yeah,
They're
it's
beautiful
yeah,
webs.
really beautiful
Yeah.
webs. And so he said, well, he says, can you bring it over? Sure, I'll bring it over. So I bring it over, and he looks at it with a little glass and says, you know, is it okay if I keep this? He says, it's not molted yet. It's not fully adult. And he says, and when it molts, I'll be able to see the palps a little bit better. And I knew he had a reason for that. And so I got a card from him a couple of weeks later, and he said, your spider has molted and it's a new species. So I think that was back in the 70s. So if you could do that, and what he told me later was that they live in the tops of trees. in that they live in the canopy and only really kind of rich, nice forest. And so the only way that they could ever find these things was there was a wasp that would collect these and
Parasitize them?
put them in
Yeah.
in their burrow with as food. And so they would get these wasps sometimes and find these spiders and look at the spiders and say, you know, what is this thing? So it goes back to that idea that biodiversity, it came that we didn't know, even what was in our own backyard. And we just assumed that New England was the most studied place in the planet, like Britain. But,
In Hubbard Brook.
Right.
yeah. So,
Should we get a second?
I would be glad to second.
Okay.
I'm very excited about
Okay,
what Paul
any-
is
Is there
proposing.
any further discussion on that?
yeah, is there any discussion?
Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Anybody abstain? The ayes have it.
Oh, okay,
Well, thank
Thank
you,
you.
Paul.
thank you.
I think it's good that we're approving that now, or voting on that now, even though the rest of the commission can weigh in on it at the next meeting, because it's spring and because you're eager
It's
to get
time-
out there.
it's time
It's
to-
the right time
Yeah.
Yeah,
to
and I'm at-
start listening and watching for things, so it doesn't seem like it's worth
Yeah, I
delaying.
mean,
Yeah.
if some of these other species are coming out, weeks
Yeah,
ahead
they're
of
gonna
time,
come in,
then-
they're gonna come in
Yeah,
early.
exactly.
And even the migrants are
Early.
coming in early, so that's a valid thing. That may put a lot of pressure on getting the data, because once the trees fully leaf out,
You're a busy guy now, Paul.
Well.
Keep us informed.
yeah, try. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay,
So the itinerary,
about 8 o'clock now.
yeah, very close survey. This is good. I don't think I saw the whole, because he had only part of it.
Did you get this out of your mailbox, Sam?
Yeah,
I just remembered I had asked Dawn to print that out for you because she had a color printer.
oh,
That's why, where's my copy?
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
that's good, and that's for the files,
yeah.
because otherwise they would just be black and white.
okay.
Yep, that's to file.
Whatever
Okay.
attachments.
Um,
So the itinerary is,
The only other thing I've got, you got anything else you want to?
I just want to make a comment that I had contacted Emma, Tutein. I don't know how you pronounce her name. You at
Yeah.
UNH Cooperative Extension.
Emma, could-
For
Emma,
securing a large format map of Nottingham and the surrounding area from the updated wildlife action plan. And then she's going to talk with her superiors to see if she can't get one of those for us.
Okay.
Because normally they will give maps to communities that they are working with.
Okay.
She seemed to think that because we're doing so much, that she might be able to get one for us.
Okay.
So that was good
Because so
news.
many of us went to the workshop.
We did.
I think that was a good idea. It was just hard to get an idea because there was enough people there that,
But, you know, these maps do so much to educate the community. And I said, well, we want to hang it up in the town hall, and we will bring it to Nottingham Day, and we will bring it to town meeting. And people love these maps, you know.
yeah.
So hopefully we'll get good news on that.
Okay.
I had one other thing too. I wanted to, Raylene sent out this attachment on salt.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if any of you had time to look at it.
Not yet, no.
It's a computer study that a specialist at UNH is doing on collecting data of how much salt and where it goes.
In Wells, because there was a UNH study that came out a couple of years ago
Mm,
about the number of wells in the area contaminated by road salt.
Yeah.
And it was upwards of 50% in some communities.
Mm.
This is a
Well,
different study?
it's a serious problem for Nottingham. The amount that's used, when there's only like a half-inch snowfall, it just stays there so that's gotta be going into all the aquifers and rivers. And I just thought, I wanted to make a point that I thought it was a really good thing that we should look at, because it's relevant to a town like Nottingham that has as many aquifers, and we're close enough to major highways and Route 125 that we're just taking a huge, and we don't even know what the results are in terms of water supply.
Maybe I'll take a look at it, and discuss it at the next meeting.
Yeah,
and then-
maybe you could put it on as a thing, because I didn't,
Yeah.
no one replied, I guess because it was just so
Yeah.
busy.
Well, I know, was it last year or the year before, we had talked about trying to get Johnny Fernald to,
Well, I think that he's decreased his use of salt.
Yeah.
And does a mix.
yeah.
With
Calcium
more
chloride.
sand and other things.
Yeah.
But to get one of those, what's it called, a slurry treatment, a pre-treatment, that's like water mixed with salt,
Mm-hmm.
a brine
Brine.
treatment.
Brine treatment.
You need a special,
Yeah,
way to disperse it, and it was quite expensive.
yeah, I think that's the
Because
problem.
brine uses less salt.
Yeah. Well, I just thought it was, she put the effort into finding that, and she had a good contact, and that contact who's at UNH might be a good person
Yeah.
on another year to show what statewide use results are.
Could you pull that up, Sam, and resend it to everybody and just
Okay,
I can,
make a note?
yeah, can't find that.
Because sometimes if I'm just skipping through emails,
that's the
I'll-
problem, is
I'll
that the
forget
sheer
things,
volume of
'cause it's-
emails.
It's only so much time in the day to
Yeah,
tend to
and,
fix.
and I think that's a real issue, because it's just, the computer makes you can go faster, but you can't.
And then we can make a recommendation based on this information.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, it's actually put on here. Okay. You're gonna need this one back.
No, I can re-pull it. and I
Okay.
guess-
The state has a winter snow and ice policy,
Mhm.
and they provide technical assistance on road salting, on road salt reduction.
Mhm.
So the New Hampshire DES website has quite a bit of information on that. You may find some things there.
You know,
I
we
think this might
revisited,
have
we
came
looked at
from
that
that.
last year, I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure the year before.
Yeah,
Really? You
it might
didn't
have
find
come,
anything
it might have come from
Of
that,
use from that?
but she had sent it out, and I thought it was, it's a
I-
pretty good
Yeah.
breakdown.
I think at that time that's when we did contact John, and he said that they had diminished their use of
Yeah,
salt.
but John's told me he doesn't use any around the lake, on the lake roads.
That's a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
He's
is a
very-
good thing on
He's
dirt
very
roads.
careful about that, so.
Is the idea that asking John at some point if he wants to approve this, or just ask him if he, give him a write-up or something so that he will know?
Yeah, I
what
think,
we're-
just
If we get at the
something
next
from the
meeting, we can.
commission,
Yeah,
after we've all taken a look at this, and we come up with a recommendation.
yeah.
We might actually want to have John come in and speak to the commission, but just about how he does things.
Yeah, an
You know,
informal,
It's just that
Because
John- John goes to bed
I know he's
early.
been through
he
some
goes to
training.
bed early.
Yeah,
We'll put him right on at 6:30, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, that's a thought, it's just to find out kind of what his current
see, I don't
regimen
know,
is.
I don't know all the
I
people.
think he's been through some salt training
So
recently.
if I
Yes, of
go in
course.
that property, I wanna actually make sure that he knows what we're doing. That's
Uh-huh.
what my idea was.
Okay,
Was this agenda
yeah, that's.
for
that's
March
one.
24th? I just gotta find that again.
Okay. I don't know if you needed the rest of your stuff. I printed one out, now I don't know where mine is. Oh,
Mine's
got
here,
it.
but it's all written out.
Oh, there it is.
There you go.
There's mine.
Well, I can use that.
Okay.
And then, because I like to have a copy to put in with the minutes, when I
Okay.
get the minutes done.
Okay.
So she's
Was our next full meeting on April 11th?
Be the second
Because
Monday.
I'm not,
Okay. That would be,
I have to look.
That's, the second Monday would be
Yeah,
April 11th
yeah.
at 7 PM.
hoping I'll be back by then.
I do have a complete forestry notification that just showed up, and I have a minimum impact forestry notification for work in Nottingham tax map 72 lot 13A. And Erica and Joseph Filippone, 112 Mountain Road, Nottingham. And, yeah, it's the usual stuff.
Okay, do you want to save that for next time?
Yeah, I can.
That'll be good.
Okay.
Thank you, Sam.
Okay. Nobody has anything else?
Went through my list, went
Okay.
through Paul's list,
Yep.
Liz's list. I think we're good. We did a lot tonight.
Actually, yeah.
I move we adjourn?
Second?
It's moved and seconded that we adjourn. All those in favor?
Yes?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
At?
At 8:08.
Yeah, that's good.
Night, everybody.